Sorry, I'm just actually looking for a word file, so all the talk. I started going to Islam in Café de Soleil, and it kind of changed my mind on poetry, because I used to think that it was mostly rubbish. Well, if you lived in Dublin, you'd think the same thing, because it is, and I've researched what it's like back home at the moment, and what's considered poetry is really dickheads rhyming, and then saying cock and bollocks every so often, and getting laughs and applause. Yeah, and that depresses me. But over here, it kind of changed my mind on it, and this summer, oddly enough, yeah, the last 5 of these, they've been really important to me, and I really appreciate it, and I'm very much going to miss them. So I was going to read. I was supposed to write something else today, but toothache, I had a nap. So I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm like an old man. So I'm gonna read one thing which, don't take offense to it, it's how I used to see this city, so it's kind of, sorry in advance. And then another one, which is old and for somebody else's zine, which I don't know if they publish it. So this is very much like all the other shit I read.
So very good.
Anyway, I remember meeting Mel, awkward and shy. I haven't seen that since. We didn't always agree and we argued, but I'm sure of her as she is of me. Friends made so quickly always are. Nice to meet you, they'll say, and it's true. There are no pre-baked smiles. There are people you meet that you like, and some who make you awkward. To theirs, there's no defense. You're more emotionally vulnerable, and they could, with a word, make you cry deeply, laugh heartily, or scream with a fierce anger. It's a drumming and a pounding, and it can't be fought. You just need to listen and hope that that person hears it also. And that all those things can happen to them. And that if luck will have it, you can get on. But circumstances are needed, space to talk and settle, to understand the importance of the person you met. This is not love at first sight, but it is love, and this is hard to recognize when you're nervous. In other places, away from home, you look to meet new people and hope to make friends. But I find it harder than back home. There's this glaze in the air, and it gives a sheen to everything, because smiles look better with Vaseline on teeth. This sparkle, this lesson taught in some school of how they're supposed to react. I miss rudeness. If I don't like you, you'll see it. If they don't like you, where I'm from, you'll see it, hear it, and if I'm lucky, feel it, and it'll fucking sting. You look and you appreciate it more. How things were and bad shit, that's a happy wound. Miss honest harm. It's like they don't get it, don't realize they hurt by being easy to deal with, to talk to, but you'll never be let in. So you search for the equivalent of friends you had, those back home, and meet folk, and you get this flash with them and go, fuck, this chick's just like her. And because of this, you try extra hard, and it hurts. Straightforward, upfront, smiling, no lies behind the eyes, and you get patiently talked to, considered and rejected. And I'll replay it all and try to figure out what I said wrong, or what I did wrong, and to get to where I stand. I didn't do anything. It's non-action. That's what's wanted. I'll make a friend like Sarah and get to know her. And that's been solid, and that first inkling of common thread is real. This is a whole different person. Learn that if someone gives you a chance, you appreciate it more. The friends who had no doubts upon meeting you, the places you used to sit and be quiet, read and write. You look for this equivalent to life, the life you had. But now you know you haven't got that. Your life is and will be different. And if you stray away from what you know, it'll continue to be. You'll live with friends in your heart, keeping you company better than the city and strangers, like the loud crowd in the cafe. Distance doesn't change this angst. It's when you distract yourself from their effect that you lose what they gave you and believe them too far to change you, to move forward with you. Look forward and pay attention. These are different people regardless of how similar they look, sound, or feel. You need to know this. Being this open leaves too much space for attack. Keep the door at a crack. There are no familiar foes behind the wall, but be open to allowing strangers in, wayfarers and other travelers. You find the equivalent, but it's not the same. It's something new, and they might remind you of someone you don't want to be reminded of, that you miss, their situation in your life, and you may become as impatient. They may know you as well as the others do, but be friends, be yourself, and be fair. What?
The one I miss honest poems.
I did. Yeah, this is from the zine which this person in this band who I interviewed years ago was doing. I never know if she used it or not, and I just found it today. I went, oh fuck, I'll read this instead. I'll write something else. So, when I was 6 during the summer, I used to spend a lot of time at Granny and Grandad's. Their house was relatively in Finglas, but so far out that our road had nothing but cottages on a hill facing an open road with large open fields behind. The road was called Kappa Cottages, and outside of Finglas, just after Kappa Hospital, which was just a 4-minute drive away, a 20 or so minute walk. My cousins and the other cottage kids all knew that walk because it's where the shop was. At the tip of where the estates ended and the trees grew taller to the left, and that winding road, treacherous like the one that led to and from Ladieswell. This summer, like the others I spent there before reaching 10, were the kind spent with the help of your imagination. Days spent there dumped by your parents to make use of the sun, to play. Our uncle's friend was a bus driver, and his route was on the road that passed the cottages. I can't remember his name now, and it's hard to remember what he looked like. I think, like my uncle, he had a thick, bushy moustache, and bus drivers had to wear caps back then. Now it's only the inspectors. More presentable, I guess. He was as tall and thin as my dad, and I had an easy smile. We saw him sometimes driving by and would always wave. The way kids wave like they've just seen a friend they hadn't seen in a week being a long time as a kid. If we were lucky, and the road and hill were empty, he'd turn up onto it and down to the beginning and let us all on. There could be 4 to 8, even 9 of us. The journey would only last a little under 20 seconds, but the excitement. You'd run to the back, you could sit down, stand up, stand by the door leaning on the protective bars, past the safety line. Or if daring, go upstairs and run up and down the aisle, even swing off the bars as the bus drove. Back then, you could only go upstairs if you wanted to smoke. 2 days ago on the train to town, passing Broomridge Station, there was an old man in a navy sweater on the far side of the canal. He had this orange tan that you get from sun and blood pressure, and the wettest hair that was slightly receded. Ooh. This man, maybe giving him a name was silly, but Gerard or Jim seemed to suit him. I was on the train to town just after Broomridge, after passing the factories. He was there walking like the last time, stopped and waved as the train passed. First distinctly looking at the front for the driver, and then for the chance, I assumed, that someone, a passenger, might wave back. I wanted to, but decided to stare instead, coyly hoping I weren't seen, but I'm sure he caught my eyes. I wondered if he was disappointed. The first time I saw him a few months ago, I wondered if maybe he'd been a driver and had retired. Then I was reminded of the book, The Railway Children, and how as a kid of 6, sorry, I'm just kind of reading different parts. How as a kid of 6, that kind of excited me. But that was that was what the days were like then, And somehow being a bus driver or a train driver back then was exciting. This is without knowing it as a job. I always wondered what happened to those kids who wanted to grow up to drive these machines just because they loved them. Was Jared one of these kids? Did he ever take that chance on his dreams? That smile, that sincere smile? Thank you.